Brand new tutorial. In this tutorial I will be discussing about a very good Android architecture pattern that you have to implement. Okay, and I'm going to talk about it's called MVVM architecture pattern. That is called model view model pattern. Okay, so I will be giving this link in the description, which provides you the thorough use case of how to use the it's a guide of for a good Android app architecture. So I would suggest you guys to go and read it. I will provide the link in the description. And usually developers choose to choose poor architecture patterns because of multiple reasons like tight deadlines and quick fixes patches, but this can lead to accumulated of technical debts. So technical debts is the cost of future rework accumulated by avoiding the work. Okay, that should have like you have to that should have been done upfront, right? So you should avoid the technical debts. Okay, so that's why you have to choose the best architecture pattern, and one of the best architecture pattern in the recent time is model view model architecture pattern. Okay, for Android application development. Okay, so there are also multiple in the historically we had multiple architecture pattern like model view controller, model view presenter, but MVVM is the right choice for this moment. Okay, of 2023, you should use MVVM architecture pattern. Okay, and how is it the MVVM architecture pattern? It is just you can just see the diagram. It says the model is the section which consists of how you the single source of truth for all your app data. Okay, like your API services and the repository which is providing the data. And then finally you have your view model, that is fetching the data, the collecting the data, and the live data is kind of a flow to update to pass the data to your activity or fragment, that is a view section. And this is our pattern. Okay, the and one of the best pattern that you have to implement. So yeah, so this was the simple description of your MVVO pattern. Actually we are already using MVVM pattern. Okay, so I'm gonna open my application right now. Okay, uh, yeah, my Android application the Movi application that we built last time. So I will be as you can see that we have the already using this MVVM pattern. Okay, if I go to my poses section, we are using the view model, we are using the repositories, right? We have the separate API service, right? So this is like a good example of a MVVM architecture pattern that we have used. Okay, so okay, so yes, if you want. Okay, let me just divide them into each like a view section. Our view is all this activity, like, okay, let me just shift this. Okay, and we have our activity. This is also another view. Okay, we have the adapters, right? uh, okay, so what we can see, the adapters are in the UI layer. Okay, so that means we have to make it in our the adapter in the view section. Okay, then we have the model view and view model. So the model actually consists of everything like the API also. So let me just go change it. The repository also comes in the model. Yeah, so you see this is the MVVM pattern that we are using in this application. So this is the best pattern, architecture pattern for your application, right? And yeah, okay, so we are already using this cool architecture pattern. in our application. And now I will be moving further to upgrade this application. So what I'm gonna do, actually the first thing that I'm gonna do, I'm actually already using data binding, right? Let me go and yeah, obviously I'm using data binding with the data binding features to true. But now I am also gonna use the data binding for my adapter, because as you can see here, I'm using yeah, find view by id, that I want to remove this. Okay, don't want to see any find view by id here. So the first thing for your data binding is obviously you have to use the layout. Okay, I just have to put the entire layout inside the layout section. And let me clean the project. And now uh, what I'm gonna do, private latent file binding is a view model item binding. Okay, then I have to now use the binding entirely. So here I will be not using the view, but item binding. Okay, and here I will be using item dot root. Okay, so I will be avoiding this. I don't need it anymore, so I just need now with the bind. Okay, item binding. Okay, now I will be using data binding to update the view. So is a title, movie title, and here I have a poster, movie poster. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Now what I have to do is obviously also binding will be assigned to my uh, view term inflate. Okay, from parent. Okay, and okay, yeah, that's it. And then I have to use pass the binding now. And what else? Just clean the code, format the code. Yeah, okay guys, it was pretty simple changing it to the data binding. And yeah, it's pretty simple. Okay, let me rerun the application now. Yeah, obviously everything's working pretty fine, right? Okay, so what next? Okay, so this was the first section of data binding, right? So mm, so view binding, okay, actually there are binding data on Android with data binding. Okay, view binding and data binding actually are the two ways to bind your data to Android views. Okay, so view binding is a simple and faster binding which can be used to replace a find view by id. So as you see that we replaced our find view by id, this code, right, entire code. So now we don't need to use anymore because the binding is all is powerful and customized to connect your data with the layout variables and expressions. So now what next is we will also actually try to use the data binding with our adapter. Okay, so not with our adapter, actually with with the fragments recycle view. So I will also try to go to my app and see if I have added necessary plugins. So I would add my Kotlin capped plugin and sync now. Okay, so this Kotlin Clap plugin is a Kotlin annotation processing tool which is needed to use, which is used for data mining. Okay, and finally we'll create a new file called recycle view binding. Obviously it will be in the view section, like okay. Let me create it in it's called recycler view binding. Okay, let me add it now. So this recycle view binding, okay, I can just make it a new package called binding. It is really good to structure your code, right? So let's structure it in a nice way. So we have a nice architecture pattern here. Okay, and this recycle view binding is a class, like okay, it's not a class actually, it's just a file that I was creating. And what I have to do is I have to create a function called bind movies that binds the movies, right? So cycle view movies is a list of movie item. And then oh, you have the adapter view dot adapter as a movie adapter. Then adapter add movies, otherwise you pass the empty list. Okay, so we have now pass the binding adapter and pass the list. Okay, so that's it. So we have defined the binding adapter. So so what it will do, it will allow you to add an app list attribute to your recycle view. So let's go to my main activity. So actually my main activity has a recycle view, right? So inside this recycle view, I can just add a app list. Okay, and okay, but I need to assign it with the value. Okay, so to assign it with the value, I can just uh, okay, let's do it step by step. First thing is I have actually like I've created the entire layout inside this layout block, right? And inside this layout block I would also have another block of passing the data. Okay, this is a data block with the variable of name view model. Okay, so then with this view model, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass the type is dot view model, movie view model. Okay, so now our movie view model. So now I will assign the value. Okay, view model popular movies. Okay, we pass the values in such a way. Okay, in data binding. uh, uh, so what it has, we have created a instance, like a kind of a instance of this view model, and we are using this instance and accessing the popular movies from that instance, and updating the recycle view. Okay, it's just such a simple procedure. So the popular movies will be passed as a list of movies for the recycle view. Okay, so so now what we have to do simply is just go to our activity, and just update our assign it out to our view model. So how can we assign? We can assign it pretty simply. This is updating our view, this is the adapter. So we can do say binding dot view model equals to your movie, actually movie view model is assigned here. So okay, I can do it here. So binding dot binding dot view model will be assigned to your movie view model, and binding dot life cycle owner will be, this is your life cycle owner. Okay, so you have to just define these two things, and the rest is pretty okay. So here you don't need to and now you don't need this to repeat. Okay, you don't need this block. Okay, you don't need to launch and collect the add movies section, because it's all done by this bind movies, right? This binding adapter. So you can just comment it down. You don't need it anymore. Okay, which simplifies the code, right? So simplifies the boilerplate code, and uh, okay, so what we can do, we can pretty much rerun the application again and see if everything is working fine with the data binding. Yeah, everything is working properly fine, guys, as you can see here. Okay, so this was the simple upgrade, and okay, so now we will be trying to uh, what we will be trying to do is we will be using a room database. So we will be adding a room database to save all the list of movies. We will actually when we open the app, it will fetch the list of movies from the network. So it takes a while, right? So if I relaunch the application, you see, when I launch the application, that's like just taking a while, like um, sometimes, you know, it takes some while, like you see, it's like loading and you have seen some kind of a placeholder there. Okay, so what we will be trying to do, so if this is the simple application, like for example when we have a long list of movies, it will take a while to fetch all the list of movies from the network, right? So what we need to do is we need to cache this data into the local database every time we fetch them. So when the user opens the app next time, the app will immediately display the list of movies from the database on the screen. So we will be using room for data caching. Okay, so let's do the data caching using the room. Okay, and for that obviously we need the room dependencies, and we will be adding the dependencies: Android X room runtime. Okay, we have also implementation of room kt room k Kotlin X, and then we have also room compiler capt Android X room compiler. Okay guys, and then we need to sync it. So obviously the room will be where it's gonna last application data change data. Okay, so it will be lying in your data layer, right? Local database or file, so it will lying in your model section. So we'll have to create another section in our model, which is room, a package called room, right? Following the MVVM architecture pattern. Okay, so in this room we will be this package, we will be adding all the necessary files, I mean like files for our room, so database. So let's create the first thing that we have to do is we have to create the entity. Okay, sorry guys, the name of the entity will be movie entity. Okay, let's create it movie entity Okay, yeah, okay, let me create it, yeah, as a movie. Movie entity. Okay, so that we can just okay, actually obviously it's a data class, and we should annotate with entity, and the name of the table will be movies, and so we will be assigning the necessary attributes, right? So let's assign the necessary attributes that we are want to save. Okay, so it has a lot of okay, yeah, what we can do actually is we can reuse this data class, right? Because actually whatever it's coming is the same. So what we'll be doing is we will be not creating is we'll save delete this. We'll be using the same movie data class that we have been created. So it will be just assigned to the entity and table name just for the we will be reusing the code, right? And we'll be defining the primary key as id. Okay, so this is okay. And okay, yeah, because this is used also in our repository, right, as a response. Okay, so no problem, we are reusing this response data class because it's actually is the same, right? We are actually taking the entire response and saving it, um, so it's okay to do that. You don't need to create the duplication, because you know, if I have to create another entity, I will have to create the entire attributes, right? So it will be like a duplication of the code. So I will just reuse this data class movie and that I have created. So now we will need to create other structures, right? Like a DAO. uh, it's an interface which contains all the CRUD operations. So it's like a movie DAO. So our movie DAO interface will contain all the necessary CRUD operations, uh, like create, read, update, and delete operations that you want to do with your database. So we will be doing adding a movies. It's a list of movie, right? And then we will also getting the movie, which is pretty simple. It's a list of movie objects. Okay, so adding movie is like pretty inserting, and when there is a conflict, we will just on conflict strategy replace it. Another interesting thing is like here, to get the movies we have to do the query, and what we'll be doing, we will be selecting sorry guys, it's from the movies table, right, that we have created, and it's a DAO. So we'll annotate with DAO, and that's it. Okay, so these are simple two CRUD operations that we are gonna use. And then finally you have to create our database. It's called movie database. So I'll be creating a class, abstract class called movie database. Okay, it's a abstract class that will be obviously implementing or extending the room database superclass. Then we have a abstract function that will be getting the movie DAO, right? returns the movie DAO. Okay, and it's pretty simple. Just need to annotate with the database and pass the entities. Our we have only single entity, that is a movie object class with the version of your database, that is 1. Okay, so yeah, after this we obviously need to also what we need to do is to create uh, the companion object that has the instance of our database, right? Private instance for movie database instance, which is nullable actually. Okay, we get the instance. Okay, let me just close this down. The instance context. Okay, movie database, return the instance synchronized with this lock, and instance if it is null or empty, we build the data build the database. Okay, so I have to also actually create another private function to build a database, passing the context, and which will return the movie database, returns the room database builder, passing the context, the movie database class, and the name of the database is MovieDB, and we finally build it, right? And we will have to build the database passing the context and also instance, assign it to the instance, right? Okay, so this is pretty simple, and it can be volatile. Okay, and okay guys, so yeah, we have created the necessary database. So now we need to pretty much update the our movie repository with the constructor from the movie database, right? So what we need is, let's go to our movie repository, and we also need another instance in our repository, that is our private movie database. So we need this movie database, and whenever we fetch the movie database, we also save it to our database, right? So here what we have to do, movie DAO equals to movie database dot movie DAO, and saved movies equals to movie DAO dot get movies. If saved movies is empty, then we have our movies movie service, API service, get popular movies. API key is your movie key, constants API key, and the results, right? Get the movies with movie DAO, add the movies with the movies that you get with the service, and then you finally emit the movies. Else we simply emit the saved movies, because we already have the movies. We don't need this anything right like this. Okay, so let me comment it down. Okay, so this is the new changes that we do hit the movies, and yeah, and what else now? So obviously we also need to change our movie application. So in our Movi application we need obviously our Movi database. Okay, so we will be uh, assigning our, okay, we can pretty much also create here actually uh, Movie database equals to Movie database dot get instance, and you pass the context, that is your application context, and assign to your repository. Okay, yeah, that's it overall. And then we just need to simply run the application and see everything is working fine or not. Yeah, everything is working fine. So now I will close the application and try to run it again. You see, it's pretty working pretty fine. If I just go and relaunch, okay, like for example, if I relaunch it again, you see it's just loading it at a glance. And yeah, so this is the simple implementation of a cache, okay, that we have done. We have cached our response in a database. Okay, so this can be very useful, for example, if you have a like if you have a very huge application, right? Caching is really important. Okay, so so we have improved our application. So even if there is no data stored in the like if even if the your if you like in the second fetch, if the data doesn't work, then you can just recover them from your database, right? So whenever you open your app next time, they will already see the updated contents. Okay, so but for okay, so there is some slight changes that we have to do. So but doing this, you don't have the updated contents, right? So contents are always the same, and it returns the same content from the so now in this scenario there is one a problem. Like for example, if the movie is already saved, then it will just emit. If the movie is already saved, it will emit the content, but the content can be also old, right? So how to handle these scenarios, how to make your app more robust so that you can improve the user experience by prefetching the data at a scheduled time, so that next time when the user will open the app, they will already see the updated content. Okay, so I want to do this using a work manager. Okay, so I have actually detailedly explained what is work manager in my previous lecture video. So if you don't know what is work manager, you just can go through it. But work manager is also a jetpack library for your background operations that can be delayed and can run based on the constraints you set. Okay, so it's ideal for doing something that must be run but can be done later on at regular intervals, right, regardless of whether the app is running or not. So you can use work manager to run tasks such as fetching the data from the network and storing it in your database at scheduled intervals, that we are going to do here. So that we will try to update preface the data at scheduled time, so that we will always get the updated contents. Okay, so we will not get only the old stored contents. So for that, what we will have to do, obviously we have to implement the library for work manager implementation. So our implementation will be runtime. Okay, this is our work manager. So can so now we will use this work manager to fetch and store data from either the local libraries or the network server. Okay, so let's do that. In our, obviously, we will go to our Movi repository, and what we'll be doing, we'll be updating our repository to use it with the work manager, right, so that we'll always get the updated contents. So first thing what we'll be doing is we'll be creating a suspending function. Okay, fetch movies. Okay, let me do it here. Suspend function, fetch movies from network. Okay, so okay, so well, movie DAO equals to movies database dot movie DAO. So what will you try? We'll try to get the movies popular movies service API service, get the popular movies, passing the API key is API key movie key stands API key. Okay, then we will movie is fetched equals to popular movies dot results. Okay, movie DAO, then we add the movies first. Okay, and we'll catch the exception okay, movie repository. If there is a exception, then we will just log an exception as occurred, occurred. Okay, passing the exception message. Okay, so yeah, we will write this. Yeah, we have written this fetch movies from our network. Okay, so actually what we will be doing is like, it will be this function will be called by the worker class that will be running to fetch and save the movies. Okay, so let's create a worker class or a movie worker. Okay, this movie worker, so we can always add them in our model. Okay, it's like let's create a package called workers. Okay, in this workers class package, I will be creating movie worker class. So this movie worker class will have a constructor parameter, like it will be taking context. Okay, and then it will also taking the params worker parameters. Obviously it will be extending the worker class context params, and then we will be doing implementing this do work function to do our work. So what we will be doing, we'll be using the movie repository context as a movie application, then we will getting the movie repository, then in our coroutine scope dispatchers.io will launch this fetching the movie from the network function, then we will return the result, right? Success. Okay, so now we have to make some changes in our movie application. So let's go to our movie application. and we have to schedule and run every hour when the device is connected to network. Movie worker will fetch the list of movies from the network and save it to the local database, right? So let's go to my movie application, and we have to create our movie request, like work request, constraints, constraints dot build. What is this constraints? It's this work constraints, actually not this widget constraints, dot builder build constraints dot builder dot set required network type connected. Okay, so the network should be connected. So this is the constraints, otherwise your worker will not be working. Okay, so now we'll create the work request of periodic work request, then a builder to pass this movie worker java of repeated interval time is 1, time units is hours. Every hour you will try to fetch the new responses from the server, right? Okay, let me see. Yeah, hour, and obviously we also have to pass the, okay, we have to set the constraints. Our constraint is obviously it should be connected to the internet, right? I mean, like the network. Add the tag, your movie work tag, and finally you just need to build this. Okay, and then we have our work manager to get the instance of your application context and enqueue your work request. Okay, it's simple, guys. And then after this we just need to run our application and see if everything is working fine. Yeah, everything is working fine. You can now make some multiple check in your application. You can close it, make sure the device is connected to the internet. Okay, and after more than 1 hour, open the application again and check whether the list of the movies displayed has been updated or not. Okay, if not, then try again in few hours. Okay, the list of movie displayed will be updated regularly around every hour. Okay, even the app has been closed. Okay, so uh, this is what we wanted to do. So we have actually created a very robust and amazing app with taking care of all the architecture pattern, all the interesting concepts like caching, and we have also saved the database, saved the also with the work manager to repeatedly update the with the new values from the server. So we have used advanced concepts here. Okay, so three advanced concept here. One is we have used the MVVM architecture pattern. The second one was we used a caching policy, saving the data in room. The third one was we use the work manager, like the worker class uh, to to automatically update the database, right? Work manager to automatically update the database every hour. Okay, so that we will get the updated results. Yeah, saying this, I would like to thank you guys for watching this tutorial, and if you like it, please do subscribe and support me, guys, so that I will be coming with the pretty cool other lecture videos. So this is entirely a cool looking Android application, right? And catch you up in the next lecture, guys. Thank you.